Hello everyone, my name is Haley Elizabeth, and if you don't know who I am, I post videos pertaining to a little bit of whatever I want: conspiracy theories, controversial people, true crime, vlogs, and all things spooky, scary, skeleton. So if you're into any of that, you can subscribe, and if not, totally fine. Like, no hard feelings. I'm not gonna pressure you to subscribe or anything. We're just here to kick back, listen to some true crime, grab your snacks, grab your drinks, whatever floats your boat. And today we are going to be talking about the Clear Lake murders. So Christina Paula was born on March 31st, 1986 in Long Island, New York. Lived with her stay-at-home mother, Lori, and her father, Charles. When Christine was 2 years old, her father, Charles, actually passed away in a construction accident. Since Christine was only 2 years old at the time, she couldn't really mourn or anything because she was still such a little baby. But as far as the mother, she grew into a very, very deep depression because of this. I mean, that was like the love of her life, and even got into drugs as time went on. And then when Christine was 5 years old, that is when she was diagnosed with alopecia, a condition where you don't have any hair, eyebrows, or eyelashes. On top of having alopecia, she also had really bad vision that required her to wear very big glasses. Because of her big glasses and not having any hair, eyebrows, or eyelashes, she was bullied heavily at school. The kids would take off her wig and start running around with it. They would take off her glasses and make fun of her as she was trying to reach for them. And then the following year, when she was 6 years old, that is when her mother started to get really, really bad with drugs, to the point where the grandparents stepped in and decided to take care of her while the mother got back up on her feet again. Now, when she moved in with her grandparents, she was able to go to a different school, but even though she was at a different school, she still got bullied a lot for her alopecia and big glasses. She was also diagnosed with ADD, so because of this, she wasn't really performing well at school either, which again made the school environment just 10 times harder for her. But eventually, she just kind of got through it, toughed it out, and then when she was 15, unfortunately, both of her grandparents had passed away. Now, I'm not sure if they passed away at the same time or if one passed away and then because of the one passing away, the other one passed away as well. But either way, her grandparents passed away when she was 15, had nowhere else to go, so she got in contact with her mother again, and her mother was actually doing 10 times better. The mother had apparently went to rehab afterwards and cleaned up herself. She wasn't on any drugs or alcohol anymore, and she was actually remarried with a house at this point. So because of the mom getting her life back on track, Christine really didn't have a problem with moving back in with her mom, and her mom also didn't have a problem with Christine moving in. Something I should mention for later on is that when the father passed away, he actually had a $370,000 insurance policy, but the sole beneficiary of this insurance policy was Christine. But since she was only 15 at the time, she wasn't able to access this until she was about 18. So then after she moved in, the mother, the stepfather, and Christine decided to move from Long Island, New York to Clear Lake City, Texas. They felt like they just needed a fresh start. They wanted to buy a big enough house that Christine could live in and have her own room. That is when Christine went to Clear Lake High School, and that is where she met two of her best friends, Tiffany and Rachel. Tiffany Rawell was actually adopted by her mother and father, Sally and Chester. Sally was a stay-at-home mom while Chester was a musician, but when Tiffany was a very young age, the two actually split and Chester quickly got remarried, and so because of this, she decided to stay with her mother. This ended up making the bond between Tiffany and her mother a lot stronger. Rachel, she had two sisters and a father, George, and her mother, Anne. Her household was very, very strict because the father sort of grew up in a military family and decided to bring those same ideologies and parenting skills to his own family. She was also very religious. She was in youth groups, she was camp counselors. But with Tiffany and Rachel, before they met Christine, they were were like the power couple. Everybody in the school knew them because they were super popular, but not only were they popular, they were very humble with it. They were kind of like popular in a way that everybody knew who they were, but they weren't mean or fake at all. They were super involved with like all the clubs and the sports and musical theater. They were very big on like school spirit. When the freshmen would come in for their freshman orientation, they were the first ones there to like bring up the vibes. They just had a good energy overall. And when they saw people bullying Christine for her alopecia or her big glasses, they decided to take Christine under their wing. Christine absolutely loved Rachel and Tiffany. She thought that they were the sweetest girls ever because, as I said, she's been bullied all of her life. So the fact that like someone was actually paying attention to her and loving her, it was such a big deal. She told her mom all about it. She said, I met these two really sweet girls. They're gonna be like my best friends. They gave her contacts so she didn't have to wear her big glasses anymore. And then they taught her how to dress and how to do makeup. They would stay up in Christine's room where like reading those Tiger Beat magazines on like how to dress and stuff like that. Basically just gave her one of those early 2000s movie sort of makeover, you know, where like the nerd comes in and then they take off the glasses and they're like, whoa, she's so beautiful. She shows up to school a completely different person, and a lot of people noticed this as well because she used to be super quiet, keeping to herself, but a lot of people saw such a change in Christine, not in just the way that she looked, but also the way that she carried herself too. Christine was even elected as Miss Irresistible in her school's yearbook because, again, of just how much confidence she had gained through Rachel and Tiffany. These three girls ended up being best friends. Rachel and Tiffany invited Christine to a bunch of parties. Christine was out here making friends. This was a really big turning point for Christine's life because it was the first time, as I said, that nobody treated her badly or saw her just as like a laughing stock.